It's just it gets loose. All right, this is BS with Joe.
So in this episode, we're going to talk about some Second Amendment BS, which is kind of part 2 of our last episode.
Yeah, we left off with John Moses Browning
Yep.
and some of the weapons he created.
The 30 cal, the 50 cal,
The 1911, the BAR.
Yep. The
BAR.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
Which was a great rifle.
Oh yeah. Well, if you look at Stoner made the AR-15, the AR-10.
Yeah.
He made a couple other firearms. He's
Now,
another great.
In your opinion,
Uh-huh.
in military rifles,
Okay.
U.S. particularly,
Uh-huh.
what do you think is your favorite?
Ooh.
I have a clear one.
See, I love the M1 Garand.
That's mine.
I also like the M1 Carbine. The
That'd
30
be my second choice.
I love the AR-15.
That's not a military weapon. M16 is.
Or M16. Yeah, the M16.
There's a big difference between the M16 and the AR.
Right. And there's a big difference between that and the M1 Garand.
Yes.
Also, the M14 is a good one.
Yeah, the M14 didn't last very long.
It did.
Neither
didn't,
did
pardon
the
me.
M1 for that matter. But the problem with the M1 Garand, and I think what killed it, was number one, the weight.
Oh, yeah.
It was a
it's
very heavy
firearm.
Very heavy, and also the thumb.
The Grand Thumb.
Yeah.
Well, that's just basic training.
Well,
You could train it out of somebody, but you put them in the heat of battle, they're going to jam their thumb.
exactly. That's what I was going to say.
And the reason why it was so heavy, part of it was the cartridge
And the wood.
and the wood. Well, it was the wood helped with recoil
Yeah.
because the weight of the firearm helped with recoil, helped with accuracy.
Yeah.
Because no
It
one
had a very long, heavy barrel.
and it had a heavy kick because it was firing the 30-06.
Yes.
30-06 is a stopper.
Yes, it is.
It's used to hunt all big game.
Now, the M1 Garand was just World War One. No, it came into World War II a little bit
It was in World War II. It was the main battle rifle in World War II
until the M14.
until the M14. But the M14 never saw battle in World War II.
Didn't?
Nope.
Okay.
The M14 was Vietnam and I believe maybe a little bit of Korea.
Vietnam was the beginning of the M16,
Yes.
and the soldiers hated it.
Yes. Originally they hated it.
Right.
So I just want to touch a little bit on the M1, the M1 Garand. It was a great firearm, and for World War
Accurate.
One,
Very accurate.
very accurate, high powerful cartridge. The loading of the magazine was great for the time because you look at what other firearms were being used at the time, like the K98 by the Mauser from the Germans.
Right.
You got the rifle that the Japanese used, and even all the people, even all the militaries of the Allied forces were
Yeah.
using a bolt-action style firearm.
That's true.
The M1 Garand was a repeat.
And the
weapon.
only repeater that we had the option of going to would be the Winchester, which wasn't accurate at all.
Well, it was also a lower powered cartridge.
It was a 45.
It was a long Colt 45.
Yeah.
And for long distance, that's not what you would want to use.
No, it was more of a hunting rifle.
It's a hunting rifle, and the 41 or 45 long Colt could still be very well. And you could also go to the 45 set.
But at 300 yards,
Right.
the M1 Garand's going to hit the target.
Right, reliably and consistently.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact,
Assuming you can see it.
right, the CMP, the Civilian Marksmanship Program, uses the M1 Garand, and you can become a member, and you could actually purchase a M1 Garand.
They're expensive now.
They are expensive. You can still find fairly decent ones.
Last time, I haven't really looked in a long time. I think back in the early 90s, I looked at buying one. It was over $1,500, and it was
Right.
an old, used, beat up one.
Right. The only real good ones you could probably find, which you're going to pay a little penny on, if you join the CMP, because they do have a shop just for CMP where you buy M1 Grands, because that's what they're used. They don't use any other firearm other than the M1 Grand.
Then there was the carbine.
The carbine, yeah. The 30 caliber, it looked identical, and the action was very similar to the M1 Garand.
Right.
But that one was actually, I think, made by a rancher or something like that. I don't remember the story behind it.
The real advantage to the carbine was the drum.
Well, not only the magazine, but also the weight,
Right.
and it was still fairly reliable, or it was still very accurate, but it had less stopping power at distance. But it was more of a support or a
It was for
commanders,
more close quarters.
more close quarters.
Yeah.
But
You weren't going to hand a sniper a
no,
carbine. It
No.
wasn't going to happen.
no, it wasn't right. Same thing with the Thompson machine gun that was used in World War II. But one of my favorite weapons from U.S. military history has got to be the 1897 shotgun, Winchester shotgun.
Yeah.
It was a pump action shotgun.
Yeah.
The Germans hated that in World War I to the point where they were saying using it is a war crime.
Right, and soldiers in the trenches were cutting barrels off, and
Well, you can only cut so much of it off because then you get into the magazine that.
yeah, but they were cutting a good 6 inches off just because it,
Oh yeah. Well, they still kept the only section they could cut off was the area and the lugs for the bayonet.
right.
They
And
were like,
did.
we don't need the bayonet, we just need to get this thing going.
Exactly. And it was an auto loader.
Well, it was a pump action. It wasn't automatic loading. It was a pump
I
action.
thought you only had to pump it the one time and then it fed it after that.
Nope, you had to pump it every time. But the thing is, you could slam fire it.
Oh, okay.
So what slam firing is you hold your finger down on the trigger and you slam the pump back and you slam it forward. So when you slammed it forward, right as soon as the shotgun shell would get into the breech and the breech closed, the hammer was
Fire
following
right away.
right behind it. And because
There's safeties that stop that from happening anymore.
well, yes, but not that shotgun.
Not that one, no.
Not that one.
Yeah.
And most pump shotguns you don't want to slam fire because
Right.
most people who have them anymore are using it for all kinds of different things. Shotguns are the most versatile firearm there is out there.
I've always wanted a side-by-side.
Side by side,
Side-by-side double action.
like a stagecoach gun or something
Yes.
like that, or old Wild West
Just-
gun.
Just because they're cool.
They're cool, but
With the
What-
double trigger.
yeah.
Yeah.
What I'm wanting and I'm trying to save my money for is a really good over-under shotgun.
Yeah.
It's very much like a side-by-side.
I've had them before.
You had them before. But the thing that I like about them, so
The one I had was a 16 gauge.
16 gauge, yeah, that's a good gauge. That's a good size.
The bird gun.
Yeah, great bird gun, great for clays. And the reason why they're so good is because you had a barrel under and above.
Mm-hmm.
The barrel under was right in line with your shoulder.
Right.
So it helped you with accuracy.
Yep.
So a lot of times your preferred barrel is the second barrel, the one under the top barrel.
Yep.
Your top barrel is like if you screwed up and you mess with the under one and they're too far away, you would shoot the top barrel.
Right.
Now the top barrel, this is the thing that's great about over-unders and also side-by-sides, is you could have one shot in one chamber and another shot in the other chamber and you could have two different chokes.
Right.
Well, not really side-by-side because you get confused on what choke is what. But an over-under, you could have...
Depends on your experience.
Right. And if you don't know what chokes are what you put at the end of the muzzle of a shotgun, and it would take your bird shot. Bird shot was like itty bitty little BBs, and it would funnel it down, or you could open it up depending on your chokes.
Right.
So if your bird was close or your clay was close, you would want to open up, so you have a better chance of hitting your clay. If you have a target that's a little further away, you would want to close that choke in. And you can use chokes for your bird shot, your buckshot, and your buckshot is a little bit bigger pellets, and there are fewer of them.
Yeah.
Double up buckshot is basically 9mm, and you could have up to 9 of them in your shotgun or your shell. So you're shooting up to 9mm projectiles at a time. It depends on if you got a 3-inch shell
What's the weight of a deer slug?
deer slug. Those are all over the place.
Okay.
But they're usually heavy.
Yeah.
Um,
A deer slug is like you imagine a 12 gauge cartridge where you've got the primer and then the rest of it is all one big hunk of lead.
Yes. and that's why they're devastating.
Yeah.
That's why shotguns are used mostly in home defense. And don't use birdshot for home defense. Use at the minimum number 4 shot if you do use home defense. At least that's my recommendation.
Unless you're looking to not kill someone and you just want to fire rock salt.
Rock salt. Yeah. Well, even birdshot won't kill them at a distance.
Right.
Now, if it's up close, it could kill them. But your
rock salt can kill you up close.
rocks, yeah. But the thing is, with and this is why, and this is a lot of people don't want to hurt or kill anybody. But if you're using a weapon in self-defense, you want to stop the threat.
Yeah.
Birdshot could stop them. Rock salt could stop them.
Yeah.
They even have less lethal rounds. So they have
the beanbags.
Beanbags. They have paint.
Yeah.
They have, I think, pepper ball shot.
Yep.
They have all different kinds of shot.
Yeah.
So it's very versatile.
Yeah.
But for home defense, and this is the reason why I'm going more towards this, because more of your home invasions isn't not just a single individual. It's multiple assailants.
True.
And if they're armed, you don't want to be painting them. You know, because they'll kill you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't want to run up against somebody that's armed and you're loading birdshot. It's
Or bear mace.
yeah.
You know, and that also, one thing I also want to talk about, if you're going to have a firearm for home defense, don't just buy a firearm. Think of defending your home or place, get a fire extinguisher.
Yeah.
A large, decent sized fire extinguisher, because more likely you're going to face a house fire than you would a home invasion. And worst case scenario, you could also use a fire extinguisher in self defense.
Absolutely.
You could spray it in their face,
And they're heavy.
and they're heavy.
Yeah.
So worst comes to worst, always get a fire extinguisher. And to be honest with you, Antifa uses them quite a bit.
Yeah.
You know, I'll go quickly with like the shot ranges. So number 4 shot is a little bit bigger. It's buckshot, but I've seen videos on YouTube and other areas where most of your number 4 shot won't go through a couple of walls.
Right.
So you don't have to worry about your neighbor next to you. Now you may have to worry about resident individuals who are inside your own home, but you don't have to worry about it going through your neighbor's house and potentially killing a neighbor.
Yeah, it'll go through the glass, but it's not going to go through his wall.
It's not going to go, especially exterior wall.
Yeah.
But if you have a slug,
That's going through everything.
it's going through quite a bit. At short distance, and the homes anymore are so close together, it's going to go through your wall, their wall, and
Well,
possibly injure someone.
a slug, if you fired a slug at the grill of a truck, it would not just go through the radiator, it would go through the water pump and probably lodge into the block.
Yeah, more than likely.
Yeah.
But number 4 shot is probably one of the best home defense loads.
Yeah. Deer slugs are just impractical.
Deer slugs are impractical.
I mean,
Now,
I understand why they're invented.
right? Yeah. Well,
They're guys. I mean,
yeah.
let's blow shit up.
It'll take hinges off a door.
It will. But then again, a 12 gauge will take the hinges off a door.
Right, but it's placement and
Yeah.
where you're going for. But other weapons, like, you know, talking about weapons that I like or that I enjoy, and I think America's rifle, the AR-15.
Yeah.
The reason why I call it the America's rifle is because they're so abundant. They're cheap.
And they're made by Colt. Just you guys didn't know that.
Well, not just by Colt. There's several
they
firearms.
were invented by Colt.
They were invented by Colt. Well, actually, it was Eugene Stoner invented the AR-15
For Colt.
for Colt
Yeah.
to be used as an M16.
Right.
He also invented the AR-10. AR-10, the only difference between AR-15 and AR-10 is the cartridge.
Right.
So an AR 10 uses 308 cartridge. The AR-15 uses 308, or no, not 308. 2223, 223, or 556.
556 being the military version of the 223.
Right. Now, talking about military firearms in history, the M14. The M14 is like a scaled down version of the M1 Garand with a magazine magazine that is detachable.
Now, the other thing you have to understand is the difference between a magazine and a clip.
Yes.
A magazine has a spring inside it that will push the cartridges into the rifle.
Right.
Whereas a clip is just basically a metal bar that you slide the bullets into and then push it in. Right. And it doesn't feed without the rifle doing the work for it.
Right. M1 Garand is a perfect case. It actually has a clip. It's a clip that holds
is
all the
a clip.
bullets.
Yes, the M1 Garand is a clip. The M14 is a
Magazine.
The AR-15 is a magazine.
Right. So the M14 has a magazine that is detachable, because even your bolt action rifles had a magazine that held all the rounds in, but it was you couldn't detach it. It was a part of the firearm.
Exactly.
Modern firearms
Then
that made
there's
them
the gas
detachable.
tubes of the old 22s.
Yes.
Yeah.
The magazine in the M14, which the M14 for the military was fully automatic,
Right.
and it was shooting 308 rounds.
A1 was full automatic.
Well, yeah, the A1, but the M14 was fully auto too. It had a little selector on the side, right by the thumb.
Yeah.
And the problem with the M14 is you had a large 308 round, and the stock wasn't completely behind the barrel.
Right.
So when the firearm would move, it would lift.
Kick up.
It'd kick up. So you think about it, you're firing 20 rounds, not straight, it's going straight up.
Yeah, it's the same problem with the AK-47.
Yeah.
As you fire, it just keeps, because it's 7.62.
7.62, but the thing is with the AK is it doesn't have as much powder behind it as a 308.
True.
The projectiles are about the same size and weight.
I've actually seen that portrayed in movies before, where people fire an AK-47 one-handed and it just goes up.
Yeah, it's a little bit more controllable.
Yeah.
But I haven't really fired a fully automatic AK. I haven't fired a fully automatic. Well, I can't say I haven't fired a fully automatic, but that's a whole other story, another different time, another.
I have fired a fully automatic AK.
I have fired a fully automatic pistol.
That too. Yeah, the Beretta 93R.
I haven't fired that one.
Beautiful. Oh, God,
Yeah.
it's been beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to fire 9 rounds and like,
Yeah. Yeah. But
damn, I gotta reload again.
that's the thing about pistols. The reason why pistols aren't really fully automatic is they're uncontrollable.
Right.
It's
dangerous.
It's dangerous.
Yeah.
And that's why the M14 quickly got retired.
Right. And then the military got smart because the soldiers kept telling, well, the older soldiers were telling the younger soldiers, 3-round burst, 3-round burst, 3-round burst.
Yeah, because after the third round, you're hitting the air.
Right. And you're
going for birds.
You're wasting bullets.
You're wasting bullets.
Yeah. And if you know anything about firearms in rifles in particular, when you zero a rifle, you're using usually a 3-round pattern to, and it's just one shot at a time, but it's a 3-round pattern to see where your zero is.
Mm-hmm. Well, not only that, but when your barrel heats up, your zero changes.
Right.
And when you fire 3 rounds, it gets hot, and then you rest it gets hot, and you have a rough idea of where your rounds are going.
And you don't waste as many rounds.
Right.
So that's why the M16A2, when it came out, the selector went from safe to single shot to 3-round bursts.
3-round bursts. Yep. Also, the sights are a little different on that one.
That's true.
Now the
sights got a little better.
Yeah.
Although the front adjustment was a little wonky with that clip.
Yeah. Now, the thing that's great about the M16, AR-15s, any of the assortment, is the barrel is actually lower. So if you look at the sights, if you look at the M16, it's got that little sight on the front that is very noticeable. It's very recognizable.
Yeah.
It's got it looks like a little A. And it's raised up from the barrel.
Right.
The reason why it's raised up from the barrel is just that they learned from the M14 is when your barrel's high, it's going to lift up.
Right.
So with the M16, the barrel is more in line with your shoulder. So the reciprocating mass and the blowback is more directed straight into the soldier, so it's more controllable.
Plus, it had the buffer spring in the stock.
Buffer spring in the stock.
Yeah.
The buffer, versus in the gas system.
Right. The gas tube.
Gas tube. The AKs are the same way.
Right. Which takes a lot of the kick out of it.
Takes a lot of kick out of it.
You can hand an M16 to a 16-year-old or not 16, 18-year-old kid in boot camp, and they can handle it first time firing a weapon without really being afraid of the kick.
Right. And also, that's why I say it's also replaced shotguns for home defense a lot of places, because women can't handle, not all women, I'd say small framed women, small framed men can't handle the kick of a 12 gauge shotgun.
True.
But you put
It does have some kick.
Yeah. But you put a AR-15 in a woman's hands with a collapsible buttstock, a small petite individual, man or woman, they could fit it to their size.
You can
and control it.
Yeah, I think a 12-year-old should control it. To be honest with you.
Yeah. To be honest with you, 5.56 223 does not have a lot of kick.
No,
a
it
lot of
doesn't.
that.
And then you put that buffer spring on it too. You can plink that all day. Plink, 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 plink.
Right, and the reason why it's very controllable is because of the grain weight of the bullet. So the heavier the bullet, the more recoil you're going to get back.
The 223 or 5.56, mainly the 5.56. The reason that it's designed the way that it is, with the rifling and the small bullet, is because it's supposed to tumble.
Well, yeah, not
When
just
when it hits the target, it will break up some, but a full metal jacket's really not going to do that. It's going to tumble and it's going to stir up the insides of your body. It's going to hit a bone and then shatter.
Well, not only that, but it's the velocity.
Yeah.
With 223 5.56, it's the velocity that kills, not the size of the bullet. Whereas you take a 1911 45 caliber pistol cartridge, that bullet is not traveling very fast. It's actually subsonic. So if you put a suppressor on any 45,
It's still loud.
it's going to be it's still loud, but it's going to be hearing safe.
Yeah.
Whereas if you put a silencer on a 223 5.56, you're going to have hearing damage still, even with a suppressor.
Right.
You can't suppress that firearm enough unless you.
That's why when you see the M4s with the suppressors on, their suppressors are like 8 to 10 inches long.
Some of them, yeah. They're and they just deaden it enough to where you're not deaf.
Yeah.
Because if you fire an M16 in any environment, even with a suppressor, you're going to have hearing problems. The reason for that is because of the velocity. It breaks the sound barrel.
The only
coming down
time
the barrel.
we used hearing protection was at the range. If we were out in the field doing live fire exercises.
And I bet you were going, "Eee," can't hear anything for a while.
Yep. Not to mention the fact that there's grenades going on.
Right. Now, with that's when there's been a lot of innovation and a lot of playing around with the AR-15, because the AR-15, like we were saying, it's America's rifle.
Yeah.
So they've actually changed cartridges in it. So the AR-15 now can handle so many different kinds of cartridges.
Right.
It can handle something as big as a 45 Bushmaster?
Yeah.
Or no, not Bushmaster. Oh, I can't remember what
There's
it
a
is.
110 round barrel or 110 round drum that you can put on.
Well, yeah, but this is the bullet. So the bullet.
Oh, okay, yeah, the grain.
Not only the grain. So it's I think it's 456 SOCOM.
Right.
It is a gigantic bullet.
Yep.
And it will fit in the magazine of a 223 5.56.
Yeah.
And if you change the bolt and you change the barrel, the frame's all the same.
Right.
It will fire that 4.56 SOCOM. And if you look at that, it's essentially a shotgun slug
Basically.
through a rifled barrel.
Yeah.
And it is,
You have to modify the weapon to do that.
yeah, the only thing you have to change is the barrel and the,
That's modifying the weapon.
yeah. But with AR-15s, because the lowers come apart from the uppers and the lowers are the registered firearm, you could buy uppers that are chambered in different calibers.
Mm-hmm.
You could even get a 410 shotgun chambered upper for an AR-15, and the magazine will hold 410 shotgun shells.
Yeah.
You could even change an upper and change the bolt to a 9mm. And you could even buy a magazine that goes into the magazine well of a AR-15 that will take 9mm magazines, and it'll fire 9mm out of the AR-15. Because the lowers, the
Yeah, the lower receiver stays the same.
yes,
Yeah.
um,
It reminds me of back in the day when I was in the military, changing barrels reminded me of the 50 cal.
yeah,
And those big, heavy gloves.
yeah, yeah. With
Changing a hot barrel.
yeah.
Been there, done that.
See, I'm glad I was never in the military. But yeah, so the AR-15 is very versatile. That's why a lot of people consider it a Lego gun, because you buy that one lower, you can buy all these uppers and barrels and change it out. And one of the
When we went to the field, we usually had 350 cals with us. One with the mess section, and the other two were with the CP.
okay. See, I don't know what those are.
The CP?
Yeah, or the other one.
The mess section?
Yeah.
The Cooks.
Oh, they were the ones that had
The 50 cal.
the 50 cal.
Yeah,
Okay.
they had one of them. And the other two were usually mounted on Jeeps, and they were at the command post.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You don't want to mess with anybody's food. But yeah, I'm just kind of ranting on, rumbling on.
I know.
But one of my favorite AR-15 chamberings is 300 Blackout.
Okay.
And if you do home defense, I like that one because you can chamber a 200 grain projectile, and they have them to where they're like hollow point, and so it'll stop in the person or it won't go through a cinder block wall.
Right.
Luckily, here in Florida, most homes are cinder block.
Now, aren't hollow points still illegal?
No, hollow points have never been illegal.
I thought they were.
Now, hollow points can't be used in war.
Oh, okay.
It's against the Geneva Convention.
Gotcha.
Also, you don't
That's-
want to use hollow points in 1911s because of the feed ramp.
I remember I had 9mm rounds at one time. They were blue points.
Okay.
They had it was basically a 9mm round that was hollowed out and had shot inside it, and then covered with this blue paste.
Okay.
They were illegal. They
Yeah.
weren't illegal when I bought them, but they became illegal.
Okay. Well, in different states will restrict what kind of ammunition we use.
Yeah.
Another firearm, speaking of which, like the
Hi,
AR-15
Sky.
that... Hi, baby. This is Sky. She's my little puppy. She needs attention sometimes. But another really good firearm, 38 Special.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why I say that is because, or 357 Magnum, which could use 38 Special. But the 38 Special had rodent pellets that you could fire rodent stuff at. So that won't go through your walls, but it'll kill a rodent.
357 Magnum will stop a truck.
Yeah, 357 will stop, Magnum will stop a truck. But a 357 Magnum could also shoot through 38 Special.
In case you guys don't know what a 357 Magnum is, it's the
Dirty Harry.
Dirty Harry. Yes.
Yeah.
The barrel was what, 8 inches long?
8 inches long.
Yeah. Huge.
Yeah. The only thing that has more stopping power and velocity than the 357 Magnum in a revolver round is the 44 Magnum.
Right.
or the 41.
The 44 is huge.
The 44 Magnum is huge, but there was also a brief period in time where they made a 41 caliber.
Really?
Yeah, 41 caliber revolver. I shot one. I have a friend that owns one. It was actually for the law enforcement, Leo's. It was supposed to be more powerful than the 38 Special, because at the time, 38 Specials with most.
That was the
Law
standard.
enforcement
Yeah,
made.
that was the standard
Yeah.
firearm.
So they wanted something that was more powerful, but not high velocity, or they didn't have to do the velocity of the 357 Magnum.
Yeah, if you ever played L.A. Noir from Rockstar, that he carried a 38 Special.
38 Special, yeah. But it's a very versatile little revolver because they make so many different rounds for it. And then they don't make them as much as they used to, but they used to make all kinds of rounds. Another really good, but back to the 300 Blackout, is you could have rounds that are subsonic and supersonic. And it's so this is what makes it so unique. He uses pistol powder, which burns faster and hotter than your rifle rounds.
Right.
Because the 300 Blackout was designed for barrels less than 16 inches.
Okay.
This is where you're getting in NFA territory.
Yeah.
So it burns all the powder within that 10.5 inch barrels, and the projectile's heavier than any pistol calibers. Well, no, there's some pistol calibers about the same grain weight, but it's a 30 caliber round, so it's got mass behind it.
Right.
So it's got stopping power, like your 45 calibers. And it burns all the powder in a short barrel. So with that, and you put a heavier grain on it, now you got a subsonic. If you get a silencer for it, using it in the house, your wife's not deaf, so she doesn't blow you away with a shotgun because she can hear you at that point.
Yeah.
And you're stopping the threat, and anyone could really wield it. It does have a little bit more recoil than 5.56 223. And then if you really want something out that the same maker, Q, made the 300 Blackout. Actually, it was 300 Whisper, but they kind of made the barrels for 300 Blackout, and they kind of recalibrated it to 300 Blackout. So
I can tell you from experience, the 1911 was one shot at a time. You don't want to do multiple shots.
no, it's hard to control. But put it in a rifle, it's easier to control. Now, Q has take that philosophy with that round, and the AR-10, which shoots the 308 rounds. So they took a 308 round, the casing for it, necked it up for a 338 Lapua round, which is a heavier grain weight.
Yeah.
And it's a massive round. It's not much bigger than a 308.
I would think that would make a very dirty barrel after a while.
It could, but it uses pistol powder again.
Oh. Okay.
So it burns hot,
Yeah.
it burns fast,
Yeah.
and helps with the velocity. Now here's what they did to change it up. They changed the twist rate in the barrel.
Oh.
So that thing is rotating like I think it's 1 3 inch twist rate. So it's one full twist in 3 inches of barrel instead of like 1 and 9.
That's really spinning.
That is spinning. So
Yeah.
what that spinning does is it stabilizes it.
Well, yeah.
So now
It's
you're
like
shooting.
If you throw a football with a spiral, it's nice and controlled.
Right.
Whereas if you over end, it's not.
So instead of shooting a 308 out of a 20 inch or 22 inch barrel to burn all the powder off, and you could even shoot them out of 16 and still get good accuracy and get a good velocity out of them. So with 8.6 Blackout, that's what they call it, 8.6 Blackout. With 8.6 Blackout, the velocity is up there, but not supersonic, because it's spinning quite fast, so it's got accuracy. And then the barrel length could be 12 inches. and burn most of the powder, if not all the powder. So there again, you're shortening it, put a can on it, and you got a very controllable weapon. Now with this thing, you can use this for hunting.
Mm-hmm. You could.
So this would make a great backpack gun.
Yeah.
For a person that wants to hunt but doesn't want to hunt with a 20-inch heavy firearm.
Right.
So
They don't want to lug the 30-06 out.
They don't lug the 30-06 out, or the 308 Winchester even.
Yeah.
And
Well, if they're not hunting bear.
right. And with Q, what they specialize in is these foldable bolt action chassis that uses magazines from AR-15s. Now, when they made the 3.8 or 8.6 Blackout, they just had to use the AR-10 magazines, up the size of the action to handle 308 or 8.6 Blackout, shorter barrel, greater backpack gun.
Have we lost you?
Yeah, I'm sorry. You guys are probably bored with all this lingo I'm talking about, but this is the type of stuff I really enjoy. So you're learning a little bit about me. I enjoy firearms.
No, it's cool. It's just I think we've lost them.
I know. I apologize, guys. If you've been around this far, yeah, thank you. Joe, do you have any more to add?
No, I think that's an interesting topic. I think that we've covered it pretty well. I'm glad we talked about it.
Yeah. That's it. All right. Like, share, subscribe. Let us know what you want to hear. If you want to hear more stories about us. Joe was in the military for a short period of time.
Yep.
Did you see any action, Joe?
No, not really, no.
What was in the 80s, wasn't it?
It was 87 to 91.
Just before the Gulf War.
Actually, I got out shortly after the Gulf War started. It was like within weeks.
Oh, wow. I'm surprised they let you go.
I was National Guard.
National Guard.
And they didn't need infantry. I mean, if I had been supply or logistics, then they probably would have shipped us out. Because, like, Illinois National Guard did send some, but it was like the support people got sent, not infantry. They didn't need infantry.
Yeah.
It was a mechanized war.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Joe.
Yep.
All right. Like, share, subscribe.